Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihin kareem. All praise is due to Almighty Allah, our Creator, our Nourisher, our Sustainer. On our very special reflection program today, as given that the time is very limited, given that a people will go out on 7th of May and they will need to cast their vote. Many are calling for change, and the change that you want to see, especially after the elections. Today in our studio, we have a very special guest. We have Rowenna Davis. She is standing for the mayor of Croydon, a mum teacher, and she also is going to stand to be the mayor. And our special guest, Dr. Anwar Ansari. Yes, elections are very near. We had many guests before, but the time that we have with our guest, I would like you to ask and pose the very important questions without any delay.
Thank you very much for coming, Rowenna. You're third candidate we are hosting, and we didn't give you a lot of notice.
Salam alaikum. It's wonderful to be here, and thank you for the opportunity and for giving residents out there the chance to hear from all of the candidates. So my name's Rowenna Davis, and I'm standing to be the mayor of Croydon. My two little girls, aged 3 and 5, are growing up in Wadden, born in Croydon. And I first came to Croydon about 10 years ago to be a teacher. And I came to teach in West Croydon, a school called Harris Invictus. And I saw firsthand the great talent and skills of our young people, but I also saw the challenges they were facing outside the class. I saw the family breakdown, I saw the overcrowded housing, I saw the crime that was there on the streets in front of them, the drug dealing, the antisocial behavior, the begging around West Croydon Station, and it made me think we are not going to get the best out of our kids inside the classroom until we deal with those things outside of the classroom. And when you become a mom or a parent, as I'm sure many of your listeners will know, you then also take a very close look at your local area. Suddenly, every bit of broken glass in the park counts more. Every single pothole, every single broken curb, every drug dealer on the end of a street becomes much more threatening when you've got those little kids around. And so that was my motivation. And in terms of my credentials, I spent 2 years as a councillor chairing scrutiny. And what that means is that I essentially had to look at all of the council's finances for 2 years. It's an apprenticeship in, how that machine operates, and in my opinion, a lot of the waste that's there. So that was very important. And for me, there are 3 priorities for Croydon. First of all, I'm sure all of your listeners will remember sort of 30 years ago, Croydon was the place to be, right? And people from Bromley used to come and shop in Croydon. Now the most common thing people tell me, it's a ghost town, okay? So there's 2 things that have to happen that I would do differently. One is we need to sit down with Westfield, and I actually really like their plans for the area. They plan to bring a planning application in by December, getting rid of the covered mall of the Whitgift, having tree-lined streets down from Wellesley Road to North End, shops at the bottom, flats on top, kind of pocket parks, much more of a mixed-use town centre. But they say they need a little bit more of like public support to make that scheme viable. So my job as mayor is to talk to the Labour government, who obviously I have good relationships with, talk to the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, who obviously I have good relationships with, he's my party, talk to organisations like Homes England, and bring the public and the private partners together to get that deal over the line, because we've been waiting too long. But the second thing, Anwar, which is really important here, is that we have to stop thinking that our town centre is just about Westfield. There are those big derelict sites around the edge. I'm talking about St George's Walk, the Nestle Tower. I don't believe any mayor has really taken on the companies who are owning that land and saying, we need to get this site moving because we have a housing crisis right now, and we desperately need that derelict land to be new shops, new jobs, new homes for our people. And if you vote for me, this is what you asked. You asked how I'm different. I believe I represent change with a practical plan. Yes, I'm not going to put a flower pot in place in that town centre and say it's good enough. We need much bigger action.
Can I ask a question which is an important part of that? Is that the local plan has not been implemented. That directs everything. Do you have thoughts on what you would do with the local plan? This is a question I asked all 3.
Yes.
Are you going to have a new local plan? Are you going to change the existing? Are you going to implement the old local plan? What are your thoughts? Very short, quick answer, please.
So the local plan is due for a refresh very soon after the election. I would love to have local people's thoughts on that plan and to amend it and make it better. But I also want to bring in a land commission for Croydon, where we look at the worst 50 derelict sites up and down the borough, those areas with the shops shut, you know, they need to be got moving. And I want to publish a transparent action plan for each one of those sites. And, you know, as mayor, I don't own the land, but my job is to go out there, find partners, find investors, and provide a vision that people can get behind.
It's very difficult to get investment. Banks are not lending. Would you be able to create anything new as a development budget in line with the government or the mayor to try and support businesses?
There's two things I'd say. First of all is that we have to go and knock on the door of every external bid, every charity organisation, you know, Homes England. There's a lot of heritage pots as well. I don't think Croydon is good enough at bidding for external funds. I see other boroughs getting funds all the time that Croydon doesn't get. So we need to beef up that team. But secondly, I'd say this. I speak to a lot of investors who say, look, if I was going to invest on my own, that would be too risky. But if I were to say that there were maybe a dozen investors coming in at the same time, then the viability becomes much better.
Thank you for that. Chairman wants to ask his pet
thank
question.
you so much. I would love that you would have stayed longer, because this issue you didn't mention about the bankruptcy of the local council and what's going to happen and how you're going to open.
Well, the finances, we wanted to know what would you do to make the finances work, because do you know how much we owe? What's the number that you have?
1.4 billion.
1.4. What is the turnover of the council? What is the interest payment? And what's your solution?
Yes. So first of all, I know that your listeners out there are being absolutely, really struggling with the burden of council tax.
Exactly.
That council tax has gone up 33% under Jason Perry's leadership. At the moment, when you or any of us pay our council tax, 17% goes to debt interest. Not paying down the debt, just a black hole of interest payments. That's before we've spent a penny on vulnerable children or adults. So here's what we have to do. Number one, we need a deal with national government on the debt. And that means perhaps restructuring it. I've already got good relationships, like I said, with the Labour government. I'm trusted. I've already spoken to them about this. I feel I'm best placed to get it. But two, we cannot get a deal on the debt until national government knows that we've got our own house in order. And at the moment, the council is not offering best value for money. So we need to transform.
Who was responsible for the 1.4 billion originally? Because listeners know, and this is what is being said, that Labour were responsible for 1.4 billion. Now, what are you going to ensure either disbanded or is not involved in future Labour administration?
So of that 1.4 billion debt, like that was built up over many parties over time. But it is true to say that Labour, the last but one Labour administration, contributed to it massively. And those leaders have been fired and suspended. They let down Croydon, they let down Labour. And I was brought in, I was teaching at the time, but I was brought in as a new leader. I was elected with over 80% of the vote. And I said, if you are going to be part of this team, you have to take responsibility for the past. You know, and anyone who's in denial about that, there's the door. You know, we have to learn from these mistakes. All parties have to learn from these mistakes. You know, Jason Perry was on the council at the time and voted for 3 of those budgets that bankrupted Croydon. All of us have learning to do. And I have a brand new team who I'm confident are in no denial of the past and want to earn back the trust of the people.
Good. Thank you. I think Chairman wants to ask about Palestine and the Labour Party.
Generally, most of the Muslim community, they take the issue on Palestine. I think they have made it a priority in this coming election, especially with supporting and pledges that with regards to Palestine issue and the BDS. And given that people have been checking and they have not found Labour supporting the pledges, especially when it comes to the issue on, because we have, it's really been clearly pointed out, a genocide has happened there in Gaza. And what different and how would you continue to support the issue, especially with the BDS, given that there is discussion about passing legislation to ban the BDS, boycott, divestment and sanctions. So we are concerned about any candidate that is going to be elected. What is their position, and will they give priority to the issue on Palestine?
Yes, well, what's happening in Gaza is heartbreaking. I find it absolutely devastating, especially, can I say, as a mum with young children, and I see what's happening there. And you were right to ask, what are we going to do about it? I think we have a moment to look at ethical investment again in Croydon. And I've said that I think that when we do, we should look at the role of arms companies,
Yes.
not just in Palestine, but across the board. And I haven't just talked about that, I've acted on it. Because you probably know with all of your campaigning work that all of the London councils are moving to a pooled collective pension fund now. They're all moving. And as they all move together, we're going to have a new responsibility matrix, a new set of policies for what ethical investment we want. And I've personally written to the head of that vehicle to say, I think we need to look at strengthening the ethical investment that we have and include arms companies in that conversation. It's a very important moment to act, and I believe we should.
Yes, and the other point is, given that we speak about the Holy Land, we've seen that how is it, Christians also been persecuted, meaning they have been denied entry, like the Holy Sepulchre Church. Al-Aqsa was shut down for 40 days. And this is just an image of Al-Aqsa. We feel that as you visit many of the mosques and every person, the Muslim community, every vote counts, they are also concerned of how we're going to protect the religious sites there in Jerusalem. And for the Muslim, their religious site is the 35 acres of land, which is Al-Aqsa. This is something that we take very serious when it comes to protecting the holy sites also in Jerusalem. What do you think? How would you support us with this initiative?
Well, I always think that because this is national policy, and this will probably be more for your national politicians like your MPs who deal with foreign policy, I would be very happy if any of the Muslim brothers and sisters out there in Croydon want to come to me, want an introduction to them. If I can facilitate that conversation and make sure that voices are heard, I'd be very happy to do that.
I was going to ask you that on my research, because there are national polls and the Muslim community, because of Gaza and Palestine and the central Labour government stance on it, have moved in huge numbers to the Greens.
Well, I think in Croydon, as we're seeing everywhere, people are looking at other parties. And I think that's happening up and down the board. And in a way, I think it's even more important in this close kind of election that your listeners really do their homework, look at the candidates and figure out who is going to serve them. And, what I would say from my point of view is I'm one of the people that you can choose. I'm raising my kids here. I've taught on those streets. And I really want to see us get our town centre back, deal with the crime and antisocial behaviour, and make sure the fly tipping ends. And when I go up and down Croydon, people of all faiths, religions and backgrounds tell me these are the things that they want a mayor to work on. And on top of that, on some of the more specific issues to do with your community, the Labour Party have fought very hard to make it easier to have a Muslim burial ground here in Croydon. I've said that I would support anyone who wants to apply for state funding for an Islamic school.
Stuart King has helped us on the local plan, as he might have shared with you, that we haven't got our own burial ground and numbers are running out on green lawns, because my mother was recently buried. Imam was there at the prayers and he's been there again, and I was there this morning. The numbers are astounding. We're going to run out soon. Are you going to be able to support it? Because the local plan does not support burial grounds easily, which I discussed with Stuart King.
Yes, so the Labour Party has already, this is before the election, the Labour Party has already amended the local plan to make it easier to find a burial ground site here in Croydon. And I believe we should have one here. And if I can support the community to bring forward a planning application for consideration, I'll do that, because we have a huge Muslim community here in Croydon, about 40,000 people. It's the second biggest religion after Christianity. Our Muslim brothers and sisters make a massive contribution in so many diverse ways. I see the community work that you do. When I was a teacher in Croydon, on every Friday I'd go to Croydon Mosque, because you have the soup kitchen in the evening. And one of the early ways, before I even joined the Croydon Party, I've been there because I see what you do, not just for the Muslim community, but for all of us. And I respect that, and I'd like the chance to work with you. And of course it's close, but whether you vote for me or not, I hope that you would know that if you're a Muslim in Croydon, you'll have someone who'll stick up against racism and Islamophobia in all its forms, and that would support the community in the good work that it does. And we'll get the town centre back, clean up the streets, and see if we can deal with this crime.
And the last point is, just before 16th of May is a very important day to remember the Nakaba, 78 years of displacement. Now we speak about refugees. Do you know that the Palestinians have no right to return? So these apartheid policies, I think the Muslim community are really, really concerned, worried is why is there the rise of the reform, laws of immigration, asylum, and then we want to, be from the best of the people who help other people. So I just wanted this to be considered. Can we here in South London, especially given that the councillors have a very strong, the voice for boycotting, divestment, sanction is something that really needs to be considered seriously before the next coming, general election, because whatever happens here is going to have an impact in the next election.
There's a close link between local and general, because you feed up information, because if you don't, they don't get the feedback about local communities, their needs and their action points. Like cemeteries, that should be national policy as well, although local have quite more important input via the local plan. Things like education, also maybe because we have Christmas holidays, but what about Eid holiday as well, when there are such large communities?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Anwar. I would now leave the last few words for our mayoral candidate, Rowenna Davis. You want to make a change for the people here in London, or in South London, in the town centre, clean street safety. Give us some concluding words.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the opportunity and for being so open and from hearing from all the parties. And this is a big choice that people have to make right now. And if we think that Croydon is doing as best as it can do right now, if we think it's on the right track, then vote for whoever you want. But if you feel that Croydon has the potential to be something great with its wonderful diverse populations, its incredible links to London, its lovely countryside, its great talent, then I think you should vote for me, because I have a plan to make it happen.
I really wanted to also ask you, before we conclude the program, will you support us on the initiative of having one Eid in London so that schools can celebrate Eid on one date? As we have the issue on our moon sighting, we need to have a separate conversation of this initiative, especially that the Muslims have 2 days of celebration, one after the month of fasting, and the second will be most likely on the 27th of May. So the council's education policies, can this initiative of using and bringing the moon back home so that we can have one united Eid here in the UK?
I'm happy to have a conversation about it. I think that's probably one for your MP, but let's have the conversation.
Thank you so much. And with this, we come to the end of our reflections on special election that is coming 7th of May. You need to take action before the election. Today was the opportunity we had to learn more about the candidates, and you have now to make a very informed decision before you do cast your vote and visit the polling stations on Thursday, 7th of May. Jazakumullah khairan. This is all time that we have today on our reflection program. I thank you very much, Rowenna and Dr. Anwar. Until our next reflection, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.